What up, y'all? It's your girl, Jasmine Nicole. Okay, we running in the lanes right now of getting the societal understanding of the views on marriage, the views on being single within this present generation. I find it very interesting. I enter it unbiased. Let me just say for the record, I am not anti-marriage, okay? And I'm not anti-single. I'm bipartisan, you know? Get it how you need to live it for however long of a period of time you need to. Do what's best for you. Make that decision to move on to marriage if that's your thing. But make sure that you pay attention to all red flags and lay a foundation of expectations, of roles, and all the things. So, with that being said, we got husbands admitting that they settled for their wives. What a damper on the desire of monogamy a little bit, don't you think? And we also have single by choice ladies out here pretty much not caring. Let's get into it.
They become my girl for perfect attendance, or was it because of a connection? So I settled with who was consistent, but you were never emotionally there. Yeah, so we a lot of times let our hearts settle where there is no expectation. So we love who questions us the least. We love who challenges us the least. We love who demands from us the least. Oh, that's a good girl right there.
When I heard this, it reminded me of the motto for the show Survivor. What is it? Outplay, outlast, outwit. You don't want to be with a man because you were the only one that would allow the level of disrespect that he gave you. You don't want to be with a man because you have taken your time over the years and chased every woman off. You fought this one here in the street. You called this one and talked to her at the job. Like, you don't want an exhausted, tired man that's like, you know what? Woo, I put this woman through the ringer. Writing all those long Facebook posts about how we've been through our ups and downs, and the downs was just him cheating on you multiple times, you taking him back. You don't want it like this. You don't want an exhausted man that you have to finally drag to the altar, who's like, you know what? Nobody else is going to ever put up with all this, but she did. She's a real one. It's sad that there are so many women out there who will take this kind of exhausted man, who will take a man who has cheated on them for years and years and years, and he's finally like, you know what? Woo! I have done everything I ever wanted to do while I was with you, but now I'm finally tired, and it's time to give somebody a ring, and you're still here, so let's just go ahead and give it to you. You don't want the kind of love that has tested you repeatedly, that has disrespected you repeatedly, that requires you to pretend that you don't see all the blatant signs that are there, because you know that if you see them, you'll have to say something, and then you have to make a decision that you're not ready to make about leaving him. You don't want to act like you don't see him putting his phone underneath the pillow and sleeping with it like that at night. You don't want to act like all of a sudden he's secretive about his passcode. You don't want to have to play dumb in order to stay with a man. And just because you get a man, because he finally, after everything he put you through, he's finally like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and be with you. You haven't won anything. He's still not a prize, and you still didn't win.
A lot of women choose to be single. It's not that we're not able to get a man. We choose to be single. We choose to be single because we don't want to be placed under foolish leadership, because you can't be submissive to a fool. Being chosen isn't an issue for most of us. It's just not. We just don't want the mental load that most men place on women. We require a mate that is equally yoked and that will not come with a lot of extra stress, chaos, and confusion. So we choose not to settle, and we choose not to date and practice abstinence until we are able to find someone that we know can be a lifelong partner.
about how men don't settle but women are expected to. No, Savannah, you got it all wrong. Men settle all the time. It's just not really talked about. We've all seen those types of men, a regular Joe Schmo with his regular Joe Schmo wife, just normal looking people. Do you think that man at some point in his life didn't want to get with someone who looked like a supermodel? Then he looked in the mirror and he's like, I don't look that good. Looked at his paycheck. He's like, I don't make enough money. It looks like I'm going to have to settle for something that's, around me. Or on the other hand, a lot of men settle for a really attractive woman who treats them horribly because she's so attractive. Like, look, I've seen multiple men get on here and be like, hey, man, never get a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. They're going to be like this, blah, blah. Like, literally telling people to sell. They're like, oh, what you want is a good 6 or 7. Literally, as a man, unless you're attractive, which most people in general are not attractive, or unless you have a lot of money, which most people do not, you're going to have to settle, okay? Like, when you look at, like, someone, you're like, okay, they're kind of like below average looks. Do you think they have below average eyes? Like, do you think like they see other people and like lower their expectations? No, like they'll see some like beautiful actress and be like, oh my gosh, I wish I had someone that looked like that. Bro, that's why men be having addictions, bro. Legitimately, I'm not mad at you, Savannah, but think about it. A lot of men end up with wives that they aren't satisfied with. But the narrative is kind of that men don't settle because everyone's convinced that like every time a man gets with a woman, like he's just like, oh, I'm so lucky to be here, when that's not always how they feel. Now, mind you, is he going to say that to her? Of course not. But I promise you, a lot of men feel like they settled for less. It's like the same way a lot of these women one day are going to look in the mirrors and be like, you know what? I'm not going to have a handsome billionaire. Oh man, this sucks. A lot of men are going to look in the mirror being like, hey, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have a supermodel who's nice to me. Oh my God, it sucks. Like that's what those people go through. Even think about like the concept of being a provider. So many men actively don't want to be providers, but they're like, oh, this is the way I keep a woman. Like literally, I see it in my comment section all the time. Like there's so many men out there who feel like they have to settle and then they end up settling. That thing is actually very common.
It's like, oh, why am I single? Because I'm not married. Duh. Why are you trying to get married? Well, I'm gonna need to see your bank account statements before we can do all that kind of discussion. Sprinkle.
Most men just settle for a woman based on perfect attendance, right? Based on, she's a good girl. She don't challenge me. She's been here since day one. She hasn't moved, whatever the case may be.
Some of y'all ladies gonna have to settle. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but listen, everybody can't have a perfect man out here. Let us be realistic. Come on now. Everybody can't have they cake and eat it too. Like you can't have the best of the best. Sometimes you gotta just go for what you got and be happy and be grateful.
Just saying what women have been told for years, and that is for us to settle. The truth is that women have settled in the past. Some of us are only here because our mothers settled for our fathers. Back in the days when women couldn't own bank accounts, when women couldn't own homes, and they didn't want women to work, and they weren't getting hired in the workforce, women were settling for men. But women don't have to do that anymore. And that's why they want to get back to the quote-unquote good old days.
Women are choosing to be single and dealing with less because y'all sat here and gave us so much on why we should be doormats to your emotions. Come on, Randy. Opposed to taking accountability for the fact that you ain't healed yoururself from the up shit your mama did to you. Come on, Randy.
Girls are just tired of men. Okay. The boy. So it's just better to be, like, I was single for a very long time. Like, it's better to be by yourself. It's funner that way. You can sleep at night. You ain't got to worry about no nigga cheating on you. You ain't got to worry about if this nigga happy or not. You ain't got to worry about cooking for no nigga. You ain't got to worry about none of that. When you single, it feels good. I was single for a very long time at peace. That's how I was able to get so much done.
So look, any man that comes and tells you that's why you single, that's the biggest compliment that he could give you, especially in this day and age, because it's not beneficial to a woman who has solidified financial security and stability, meaning that you got your own house, you got your own place, your own car, you making money. It doesn't benefit you to be in a relationship with these men these days. And I mean, I hate that. It used to be a flex to have a man because men took pride in providing for their women. Regardless of all the extra headache that came along with them, because I'm going to just tell you this, men have never been faithful. They have always cheated. And for those women say not all men cheat, whatever man you feel like has not cheated, maybe your grandfather, your grandmother took those secrets about him to her grave if she's, deceased. Or she just ain't tell you. Because every man at some point in their life and relationship with a woman has stepped out on that woman. I'm not saying that they do it all the time. You know what I mean? But at some point, especially if you've been together for years, that man has stepped out. So for all the women that's delusional to think that no man cheats, that's because you just didn't find out. That's because maybe your grandmother, kept those secrets that she knew about your grandfather to herself, or your mother, or whoever. But back then, men took pride in caring for the home. Men took pride in paying bills, putting their women in cars for transportation because they had children. Now, men use women for those things that they used to provide for women. Meaning that they got men that's moving in with women, driving their cars, tearing your shit up. These men are no longer being of service to you. They're coming to you for you to service them. So, being single is a really big flex, especially when you got yourself together. Because you're not obligated. You don't have to deal with the responsibility. Only person that you have to care about is yourself. So any man that's trying to manipulate you and tell you, well, that's why you're single, tell him thank you. Because that's a compliment.
And that's her point, yes. They kept things secret. So if infidelity occurred in those 30-year long marriages, it was quiet. No one knew, and if someone knew, it was probably the sister to the person, okay? A really close loved one. That was it. It was quiet. Men had other families, okay? Men had children outside of the natural home and kept quiet, and folks stayed married. But that doesn't mean the marriage was successful. Just want to make that clear, and that's what she's highlighting. It doesn't mean the marriage was successful. No, this is not all marriages, but there are a lot of skeletons in most marital histories. Long, deep marital histories, but there are some strong stories. Few, but there are out there. A very healthy, successful, loyal marriages, infidelity free for 30 plus years, in love for 30 plus years, don't want no one else for 30 plus years. I love those stories. I live for those stories. And that can be you. That can be you and your partner. It's about having an understanding, a complete understanding of roles, distribution, interests, family-oriented dynamic, conversations, you know what I mean? Laying the foundation, designating roles, because sometimes that's just necessary and appropriate when you're in a relationship. Roles need to be designated. You good at this? Okay, boom. You know what I'm saying? I'll handle this side of the business, of running our household and finances or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So just finding whatever system that works for you and your partner to move forward, that's great. I was even freaking laughing earlier when I was thinking about, look, if it came to the point where, look, do I need to put up a task assignment chart on the wall like you had kids? You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is your task and this is my task, and if you have a kid, this is your daily task, and we putting pins on it when done. You know what I mean? And if with some families that's done and that works, and that keeps a center of structure, control, and equal distribution. So in general, whatever works for you, do it. But it can be done. You can have a happy marriage. It's just what's going on these days is that women are tired because we're not actually seeing the quality of men present that are willing to deliver that dynamic.
Why do men stay in marriages and in relationships with women who they don't even love, women who they barely even like? And there's a few reasons for that. I'll give you 3 of the main reasons for why men stay with women in marriages and in relationships who they don't love. A fear of being alone is one of the biggest reasons for why men will stay with women, and that's because they're afraid of being alone, or they don't want to be alone. They want to get home to a house with someone there, and in some instances, men would rather get home to someone than to get home to no one, despite the fact that they don't love the woman. Especially if this man and woman have been together for 10 plus years, of course he would rather get home to someone than to get home to no one, because going from living with someone and seeing them every single day when you get home from work, and being with them every day when you go home from work, that to shifting over to a dynamic when there's no one home, it's going to affect you drastically, mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. Unfortunately, a lot of us as men are never taught the importance of solitude. So when a man does not understand the value of solitude, he would rather be with someone, anyone, over being with himself in his own skin, his own thoughts, his own emotions, and his own feelings. Another reason is familiarity and comfort. Men will always go back to that which is comfortable for them and that which they are familiar with, even though they may not see a lot of love or affection coming from that person. Men will still stay there because of the life that they've built, and this life provides some sort of comfort for him. And another huge reason for why men will stay in a relationship or in a marriage with a woman who they don't love is because of the benefits of companionship. A man may get home to a house that's clean, it's organized, it's neat, it smells good, and he goes to the kitchen, there's a hot meal ready for him on the table. The laundry's done, laundry's folded, the floors are clean, everything smells good, and it feels like home. These are all things that women are able to provide for men within the domestic labor. A man may be in a relationship or in a marriage with a woman and not love her, but love what she does for him. And that's why they stay in marriages and in relationships with women who they don't love.
But I was thinking the other day, and I think about this a lot, I think about why so many men are angry at women that are happy to be child-free and single. And the biggest insult they can offer us is, you're going to die alone with cats or dogs or some kind of pet. And I see so many women rejoicing in this and being like, yeah, pets, no children, no commitment, no raising a man like a second child. Where is the point where I'm losing here? This sounds like the ideal situation. Now, obviously, it doesn't apply to all women. I'm talking to women that are single by choice. I'm talking about women that choose not to have children. Obviously, this doesn't apply to the women that have husbands and are happy, and that have children and are happy, and that is a life they wanted, and they made that decision, and they are very happy with that decision. This does not obviously apply to them. But so women like myself that would be more than happy to die alone, if I meet the love of my life, great. If I don't, also great. I'm really content with both options. I've enjoyed being in relationships and I've enjoyed being single. I forced myself to get uncomfortable with being single so that if that ever was the reality for the rest of my life, as a woman that doesn't want children and who finds it hard to meet men that don't want children, will I be okay with it? Yes, and I was content with that quite a while ago. So both suit me, both I'd be okay with. But whenever you say this, there's a lot of men that really hate it and they try to throw spinster at you, or they try to throw old or damaged goods or tainted or, you know, the bog standard misogynistic bullshit that we hear all the time. And I was thinking to myself, why do these men get so angry? Why do they hate the idea of me doing something by myself in my home alone that has nothing to do with them? And I'll tell you the conclusion I drew from this. It may not fully be the truth, but it's what I think is to be the truth about a lot of misogynistic men. And that is that men really hate their own company, and that these types of men, not all men, and that these types of men really don't know how to be alone because the voices in their head are too painful. The trauma, the wounds from childhood, all this stuff comes up. All the things that they don't want to face, that they've constantly ignored since they were children, that comes up, and the silence is too loud. And because the silence is too loud, they can't stand being by themselves. So because women are now very okay with that, we'll often sit in our trauma and our wounds and our pain, or we'll take ourselves to therapy or journal. We might do all of it, and we're very okay with it. The idea of a woman being okay with something they're not, I think they're jealous of. On top of that, if those women are okay with that and they choose to go and be single and not involve themselves with men, and not have a partner, that means there's more of these men left over about a woman doing emotional labour for them, which means they're forced to be in their house, in their head. And I think, and I don't think these are all the reasons, but I think these are two of the big reasons. I think that's really uncomfortable for them. Because for me, if I met a man and he said, I really want to have a family, I wouldn't be like, how dare you want to have a family? And if I met a man and he said, I really want to be by myself, I don't want to date somebody, I'd be like, good for you, bro. Yeah, you see so many of these men that when women are like, openly opting into it, because they don't want to do that and because they can't fathom doing that, they think it must be a lie. Because men think from their perspective that we think somewhat like them, even though we don't, the same way we as women often think that men might think more like us than they actually do. We are quite diverse. I think a lot of men think, I can't imagine doing that, so how are you able to do that? And because I don't understand it, what do when we don't understand something and we are ignorant? We become angry, we shout at it, we end up projecting our inner pain that we feel towards that situation. So if we're not okay with something and you can do it easily, that triggers us. And I honestly think that for all the women I know where I say, how would you feel about dying alone with cats? How would you feel about dying alone without family? How would you feel about, just going to a coffee shop with all those other little old ladies? How would you feel about that? So many of them, the ones that don't want children or the ones that are really sick of dating shitty men, they're all really content. I have a lot of opinions and I spent a lot of time observing and talking to men in so many different ways, where so many of them tell on themselves without realising they're telling on themselves. And I will ask them key questions, whether that be through my job, coaching, or through just everyday life things. Work that I used to do, working in all different backgrounds, being on the train, having a conversation with a guy that's married but wants me to not realise he's married because he just took his ring off 5 seconds before talking to me. Loads of different backgrounds where I talk to men. I will ask them specific questions where I know they're going to tell me something they don't realise they're telling me, and they tell on themselves all the time. And so for me, a lot of these men that are married and unhappy and they're cheating, or a lot of these men that are angry that women are making the choice to choose to live without them, a lot of it's because they're scared of being left behind, because we actually do better at being by ourselves than they do.
Take advantage of being single. Oh my God. Being single is such an advantage that we forget about. Extra time, extra money, extra energy. We look better, our body, our hair, our makeup, we're glowing when we're single. There's no one distracting us. There's no one making us eat cake when we don't want to eat cake. That's how it goes when you get a partner, okay? If you haven't had one before, you lose yourself a little bit. You look in the mirror 2 years down the road and you're like, I'm sorry, is that me? It happens to all of us. Take advantage of being your hottest self right now. Having all this extra time to make more money, get a better career, work out more, whatever you need to do. Because what happens when we work on ourselves and we actually level up? We attract a higher level partner. They are coming, trust. Keep working on yourself. I know that phrase is so cliche, but it's true. Keep plugging away. I'm doing the same thing. I'm in it with you, okay? Let's support each other in the comments.
And with all that being said, as hot as it is out here, I will see you in the next video. Be real. Comment, like, and subscribe if you want to rock out with your girl Jazz. I'll see you.